Hey everyone, I'm Kai Chimura, the host of Soccerpedia podcast. For today's episode, I've done doing something that I've never done before, and that is to make a prediction for a league that for the 2020-2021 season. And so for today's episode, I'm going to list out 10 of my own predictions for the 2020-2021 Premier League. This is just based on pure randomness. And so I could get maybe one or two of these predictions right, or I could just make a complete fool out of myself and get none of these predictions accurate. But without further ado, these are my 10 predictions for the next upcoming Premier League. So, my first prediction, I think that Southampton, West Bromwich Albion, and Fulham will be relegated. Southampton, they've been in the Premier League this go around for since the 2012-2013 season. I think they've just grown a bit complacent. They had to rely on Danny Ings a lot, and even seasons previous, they had to rely on Charlie Austin to be their savior. So I just think many other Premier League teams are just going to finally snuff out Southampton's deal here. And I think Southampton will have a really tough time. It'll probably come down to the final day of the season, but I think Southampton will be relegated. West Bromwich Albion, they're a top quality championship side. I think they need to make a couple of more signings for them to stay consistently in the Premier League. They need to improve on their striker quality, in my opinion, for them to survive the Premier League. They're going to be very tough. I don't see them getting blown out or lose a lot. I think they have a very stingy defense. But I think West Bromwich Albion, they're going to have a lot of trouble scoring goals. And speaking of having a lot of trouble scoring goals, I think Fulham are going to be finishing in last place this season. Much respect to Scott Parker. I just think that Fulham has been one of the ultimate yo-yo clubs for the past decade in English football. Fulham, they have struggled to consistently stay in the Premier League. It's one season they're up in Premier League, the next season they're down in the Championship for a couple seasons before trying to pivot another move for promotion. Fulham, they just needed to make the right purchases, the right buys last go around. They spent over $100 million on players, and it just did not work. Aston Villa, they're going to kind of be the Aston Villa of this season, where they spent a lot of money on players, but in Aston Villa's case, they scraped by the skin of their teeth. I just think Fulham, they just need to, not worry about the star glam, but focus on players who are going to stay consistent, which is going to be hard to do. But I think Fulham will finish in last place. I think they'll rack up more points than Norwich City this season. But I think it's just going to be too much of an ask for Fulham to fight for their survival in the Premier League. For my second prediction, I think Leeds United will finish in the top 10. Leeds United, they did really well in the championship. They have rich owners, an excellent coach in Bielsa. And they've been in the rumor mill a lot lately of signing various star players. Who knows what will happen? If they're able to buy a couple of key acquisitions, especially up top, Leeds United will, I think, be the Sheffield United of this season. Sheffield United, of course, was the promoted team from last season, and they did really well. They were fighting for a Europa League spot, and I think Leeds United will be the best of the promoted teams this season, and I just think they'll finish in the top 10. For my third prediction, I think Danny Ings will move to a top-tier club during the winter window. I think he will finish with a team that will be in the top six, competing for European football next season. If I had to pick a team that he will go to, I think he will return to his former club, Liverpool FC. Reason being, Liverpool, I believe, of course, Divock Origi, who was pretty much a striker on the bench, will not re-sign for Liverpool. He's going to go elsewhere to play consistent minutes. And I think Liverpool will try to fill in that gap for extra offensive firepower, and I believe that man will be Danny Ings. Danny Ings scored a lot of goals this past season, and he is pretty much the Band-Aid that is separating Southampton from a flood that's going to break and have a lot of cracks in it. Danny Ings will probably grow frustrated of consistently trying to save the day. And I think Danny Ings wants to, reach a bit further. And I think Liverpool will be that club for him come the winter window. For my fourth prediction, I think that Everton will win a Merseyside Derby this season. More than likely, that would be at Goodison Park. Last season, Everton and Liverpool played to a tie at Goodison Park. They have a good coach in Carlo Ancelotti. Everton did have a disappointing season, but I believe they have the decent personnel. If they can just get themselves working together well, I think Everton will pull off a couple of surprise wins, and I think one of those wins will come against Liverpool. I haven't checked the records lately, but I think Everton has not beaten Liverpool in close to a decade, and I think that will change this season. For my fifth prediction, I think that it's either going to be Harry Kane or Timo Werner that will win the Golden Boot. Harry Kane is that kind of player where he is going to score at least 10 more goals than his closest teammate in the Premier League. He's kind of like a Danny Ings, a Jamie Vardy of sorts. Harry Kane is very talented. He has an actual eye for the goal, and I think it's going to be either him or the recent Chelsea signing Timo Werner, who lit it up with RB Leipzig. And Timo Werner is going to have a lot of help from Christian Pulisic and Hakim Ziyech, and I just think he is going to get a lot of goals this season. I can see both of them clinching close or at least 25 goals this season. I believe that for my sixth prediction, that Manchester United will not lose to Manchester City in both derbies, whether it's at Old Trafford or at the Etihad. I think that Manchester United, they have a talented squad. They have Bruno Fernandes, Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford, a good attacking trio there. Manchester City, of course, very talented team as well. It's just the history and the rivalry between those two sides that are just going to make it a very exciting game. But I just think that Manchester United I know it sounds kind of lame, but they have that historical edge, and I think they have more to fight for, I think, in this time around. And so I think Manchester United, they might not beat Manchester City, but I just think they will get a win at Old Trafford and then tie at the Etihad this season. For my seventh prediction, I think that Phil Foden will reach at least 10 goals and 10 assists this season. He did really well. I think he scored 6 goals and had 3 assists this past season. And he could have had more, but of course he was competing with David Silva for minutes. But now with David Silva departing Manchester City, expect Phil Foden to have a lot more playing time and a lot more chances for getting goals and getting assists. And I just think that's a feasible and reasonable target for him. For my eighth prediction, I think Eddie Howe will coach Fulham at some point this season. Fulham, like I mentioned in my first prediction, I believe they will be relegated. With as much respect to Scott Parker, he's coached Fulham for a couple of seasons. He retired with Fulham after spending the last 3 or 4 seasons of his career with them. But I believe if for Fulham's fans, they're going to grow restless if they are, in the relegation zone throughout the first half of the season. They're probably tired of consistently being a yo-yo club. Eddie Howe, he helped Bournemouth stay in the Premier League for 5 seasons, which is give a lot of credit to Eddie Howe. Bournemouth was in League One a decade ago, and he helped them get promoted to the Premier League and helped them stay in the Premier League on a very tight budget. And I think Eddie Howe will coach Fulham. I don't think he will help them stay alive in the Premier League, but I just think Fulham will do a kind of a panic fire and get rid of Scott Parker, try to fill in the gap with Eddie Howe, and I just don't think it will be successful, but I just predict that Eddie Howe will coach Fulham at Craven Cottage. I believe for my ninth prediction, Ederson will win back-to-back Golden Gloves. He won the Golden Glove last season with 16 clean sheets, I believe. Now Ederson will probably win the Golden Glove again. I think Nick Pope and Dean Henderson will be close second-place rivalries with Ederson, but I just think Manchester City's defense is just going to be too good. And Ederson will, of course, he's prone to make a mistake every now and then with his distribution, but those are a few and far in between. And so I think Ederson will win the Golden Glove again this season. Lastly, I think Manchester City will be Premier League champions, as much as it pains me to say it as a Chelsea fan. But I just think Manchester City will pip Liverpool. Liverpool, don't think will successfully defend their title. Liverpool still an excellent side. I just think Manchester City will win this time around, and if they do win, it is not going to be a runaway. I think the title will be decided. I think the gap between first and second place this season will be less than 6 points. But the top two place teams will have, I think, easily a 10-point gap between third and fourth place. And speaking of third and fourth, I believe Chelsea and Manchester United will occupy the third and fourth place spots. I think it's going to be very close. Once again, it's going to be decided, I believe, by less than 2 points. And that is going to be those are my 10 predictions for this Premier League season. Of course, this podcast is on Spotify, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. But if you want to, comment on your own predictions, or if you think that I'm wrong on any predictions, then leave a comment on my YouTube video. Just look up Soccerpedia, and you'll find this video. And as always, until next time.